Hey everyone, welcome back to the 9.2 test server. Today we're going to check out some of the new vehicles that have been added to the game, as well as some that have been given the HD treatment. Now first off, I want to talk about this FV215B 183. Now you might remember this thing as that tank that'll one-shot your tier 10 mediums and such like that. Well, it's getting a bit of a nerf. As you may or may not know, its shell layout here, it has the armor piercing, which do around an average of over 1,000. Then it has its regular high explosive rounds, which they do a lot of damage if they penetrate, but the HESH rounds here, that's what we're interested in. That's what a lot of people use, and you'll see each shell cost 8,000 credits. That's pretty expensive. However, the penetration on that thing has been nerfed from, I believe, 175 millimeters to 275 millimeters to 230 millimeters, and that's going to be a huge hit taken by this thing. That's going to make getting through a lot of lower plates difficult. Anyway, moving on. So let's look at the new content now that we've been all sad about this. This is my favorite tank, and they're nerfing it. Oh well. Anyway, the SU-85I. Now, this is a tank that they've just recently added to the in-game premium store. So you'll see it. Oh, I did not plan to look at this. There it is there, up there. Its cost is 2,300 gold. So you can always buy it in-game now. I'm not sure if it was available in the online gift shop before or not, but I suppose you'll know that if you've been keeping your eye on it for a while. Anyway, now let's look at the HD tanks. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 new ones reworked in HD, or as they're calling it now, reworked in a new visual quality. Alright, so first off, let's take a look at some of the regular vehicles just so we can get a look at what they look like. So this is the SU-100Y, it's a premium as well. Completely unrelated to this vehicle, or to this video. And the Wolverine here, they're all not visually improved yet, same with the T95. You'll see how, oh, although it looks nicer than I remember. Maybe it's that camo. But things, especially on this SU-100Y, it was noticeable. The texture up close just doesn't look quite the same. I know it's going to be hard to tell on YouTube, especially if you're not watching in 1080p, but it just doesn't have that visual pop. Now, if we go through and look at tanks like the SU-100, they look nice, and we'll take a close look at each of them as we go through them here. So the SU-100 doesn't look as nice as some of the other ones, I think, that have been reworked in this patch. So maybe that's a bad one to start off with to compare, but you'll notice that first off, you can tell in all these vehicles, the tracks, they look nice and shiny compared to the tracks on the other vehicles, where they look kind of boring, and you can tell they're one texture. So that's a nice touch for sure. The wheels are rounder. You can see the wheels here. They look almost perfectly round, whereas the S100Y, for example, okay, bad example. Let's try this one. You can see how the wheels just aren't quite round. They're kind of squared. So looking a little more closely, you can see the fenders are all bent up. That's a nice touch. You can see more scratches. The texture on them is nicer, so that you can see the scratches and dents, and on occasion a few places where shells have kind of ricocheted off, as well as left little craters. So that's a nice touch. You'll probably see they've added some new little things on various tanks. I don't own this one on the actual live server, so I don't know exactly what it looks like in detail. I haven't spent a whole lot of time looking at the back of this thing, to be honest, aka playing it. But it looks nice. Looks nice. And then we can move on to the StuG. Now this thing, for example, there's one of those ricochets I talked about. Looks like the shell might have hit there, ricocheted off, and then bounced off there again. But anyway, nice touch. Were those road wheels on there before? I don't know. Again, haven't went down the German TD line, so I haven't looked too closely at a lot of these. Once again, the wheels are nice and round, tracks are nice and shiny. Looking at this track compared to its cousin over here, you can see the difference very nicely. You can see that the tracks have more texture, have much more detail in them, but everything's just, once again, nice and crisp, and you can certainly tell them apart from the standard definition, as I'll call them, tanks. Alright, next up we need to hop over to the heavy line. It's going to be the IS. Again, don't have this on the live server. I don't think I have any. Oh, I have one of these tanks. It'll be the last one we look at. on the live server. Again, you can see how its tracks kind of hang there with all their nice shiny details. That's nice. This tank looks, I think, the nicest of the ones they redid, with exception of maybe the next one I'll show you, which would be the Churchill one. Again, fenders are all nice bent up. That looks good. Oh, there's a little impact mark there, as well as a couple little ones on the front. Is that one there? No, I think that's part of the tank design on the front of the turret. Everything is quite nice. Again, the back, you can see it shines just the right way there. The engine compartment vents are actually open, whereas if I look at, say, the T-34, for example, they're all closed. They're just a texture. There's not actually a bump there for them at all. It's just a texture, an image, a flat image on there, basically. Whereas on this thing, you can see into the engine compartment. Although it's black in there and you can't actually see anything, it's nice. It's the little things, I mean. It's the little things that really make the details. M103, for example, that was redone in another patch. You can't... Looks like it's a flat texture, too. But it makes up for it with all these things on the back. That's a really nice touch. Alright, moving on to the Churchill one, which is right here. This is, I think, the nicest looking one in this update, at least, in 9.2. That's been added. The details are nice. The big tracks are, well, big, so they really stand out. I believe it's fully upgraded, yeah. This was a tank that I hated until up to the point where I just got past it. And then once I got past it, once I started doing the last couple battles in this tank, I finally got the hang of it and figured out the whole side scraping thing in this thing was key, and that you needed to side scrape a lot more than you thought. But not a bad tank. And it looks really nice. Not quite sure what these wooden things in there are for. I noticed there's one on both sides. But they might be some kind of makeshift tool for the tank, or they might actually serve a purpose. I don't know. I'm sure somebody watching the video will know and tell me in the comments, which I would appreciate. All the little... Well, it looks like the springs and coils, whatchamacallit there, are one solid item, but they still look nice. It makes it look like, at first glance, that it's not. And I mean, to be honest, when you're actually playing the game, you're not going to take time to look. You hardly notice the difference between the detail level in the T-54, which has been redone in 9.0, I believe, in HD, and the T-62A. I mean, you're going to hardly notice when you're, especially if you're zoomed out all the way in a battle, looking around, hardly looking at your tank, you're not going to notice much. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this time. There's going to be a link to all the details in the 9.2 patch, all the lists of changes in the description of this video. Check that out if it interests you. I had a video showing the new map, the reworked version, Prohorovka. Oof, you know what I mean. Could never say it. The reworked video of that. There's a second one of those out there now, and I wasn't a huge fan of that map, so that kind of bums me out. That means that just like we have with Himmelsdorf and Winter Himmelsdorf and Runeberg on Fire, there's going to be that map appearing more often. But anyways, guys, I'll have to get used to it. Oh, there's a nice touch too on the back of this tank. Around the exhaust, it's all black. All the little things on there are all nice. There's the exhaust. I wish I could compare it directly to the live server tank without switching back to the server, but toolbox is all beat up. It actually looks like a toolbox on the back of that thing now. But yeah, once again, for the 18th time, see you later.